Okay, Gabrielle, let's start. So would you gently introduce yourself to us and what you do?
Well, I really hate being here alone without Tsitsi Dangaremgba because it's her show and it's her business we wanted to introduce. And Prudence is just signing that she will be coming soon. But to close the gap, to get over the time. My name is Gabriele Sindler. I'm from Austria. I'm working with a Swiss company, and there is Tsitsi. Hello. Are you hearing us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you too. So I'm very happy and I'm very glad that this is working. DFK Film is specialized in analyzing and developing scripts. We are a story and script consultants. Tsitsi and I attended the same film school here in Berlin, the DFFB, at two different times and ages, but we had the same mentor who brought us together when Tsitsi won the Friedenspreis des Deutschen Buchhandels here in Frankfurt. And she is not only a novelist, but also a filmmaker and a political activist. And since then we met and we are working on several film projects together and also in educating film professionals in developing or becoming better in story and script writing, because it's the only thing that never can be improved enough.
So, Tsitsi, over to you to tell us briefly about what you do.
Thank you, Simone, and thank you to AFRO Berlin and the European Film Market at the Berlinale. Hello, everyone. It's really wonderful to get this opportunity to share what I do. As Gabriele has just said, I am a novelist. I'm also a filmmaker. I did go to the DFFB many years ago. Won't tell you how many years ago. And living in Zimbabwe as I do, it's difficult to escape having to engage with what is going on in Zimbabwe at the moment, and Zimbabwe is in a critical situation. However, I don't really think of myself as a political activist. I think of somebody who engages with other citizens in order to increase their own understanding of their situation so that they can become agents in their own lives. And this really has been the project of my creative work, whether it's in theatre, whether it's in film, or whether it is in literature. Thank you.
So would you tell us about Icapa and how it came about? Was there a catalyst event or something that made you start this organization? Tsitsi?
Thank you again, Simone. Yes, Icapa Trust stands for, the ICAPA stands for the Institute of Creative Arts for Progress in Africa, because all through my life, I have felt that creativity has not been fostered, has not been encouraged in many African countries. And this, of course, has a lot to do with the colonial past, where the creativity of the indigenous people was seen as a threat. And we see this going across the Atlantic also to the Americas in the time of slavery and following the times of slavery, where the self-expression of melanated people like me was suppressed. And so I really wanted to engage with this and do something to change that. So I created this NGO in Harare. It's an arts NGO in Harare. And our activities are Pan-African in reach. Again, I feel that the way we people on the continent are bundled up into nations, bigger or smaller nations, works to obscure our commonalities, which could help us to come together. For example, as we see the European Union came together, because these days, with the globalized economy, we need the numbers in order to be competitive. And so I would like to see that kind of competitiveness also in the creative industries. So our core business at Icapa is engaging with all aspects of creative art, including research, training, and publications. We do arts entrepreneurship, and we do produce creative arts products that grip, entertain, and transform audiences, or at least that's what we would like to do, and we try to make sure that we succeed. We foster creativity of expression in all the arts, and we bring these different art forms together in the audio-visual narrative. So Icapa Trust supports the development of works of arts, particularly those audiovisual ones, film and so forth, that have a strong spirit of confidence and courage, and where the creators of these works of art are conscious that they are creating works that have a spirit of confidence and courage that can be useful in the democratic development of Africa. So through these activities, my trust encourages new ways of thinking in order to bring about social change through the creative economy. So the catalyst event was that after I finished film school in Berlin, way back in the last century, I returned to Zimbabwe, intending to work in the film sector there, including realizing my own films, but not only doing my own things, working with other people as well. That was my hope. That was my dream. In all departments was too low. Whenever I had a shoot, I had to import my crew, many of my key crew from Europe. And that really hadn't been what I had envisaged, and I wanted to change that. So I realized that training was essential, both in specific film skills and also in other arts disciplines that support film production.
Why? What do you think the participants who take part in Icapa can expect to either from the training?
Gabriele, would you like to talk about since it would start with script development?
Tsitsi approached us because she is encouraging women in film business. And she started in Zimbabwe, and she's doing it in a Pan-African way. And so she organized and financed a workshop which took place in Lagos in October and November, at the time also at AFRIF. And there were 16 participants with 8 projects from 9 countries, from Botswana, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, Kenya, Rwanda, Nigeria, Sao Tome, Ivory Coast, and Egypt, and all genres. So that we have heard before that they're not only films that focusing on problems, but also there is science fiction and fantasy, and also, of course, drama. Tsitsi wants to produce stories coming from the continent for an audience all over the world, all over the continent and here. So we have similar problems so she saw that there are similar problems like we have it here. Either their storytelling is very superficial and focusing on television, or it is concentrating on festivals or on film critiques. Do less people in the development process focus on the audience. On the audience, we have to, when we have stories to tell that are important and interesting and relevant, then we should take care that a lot of people are going to see them. And so we should neither underestimate them, and we should not bore them by telling these stories. So whatever I heard here before is not enough to make it possible. It's also to make it very, very well told, so that a lot of people want to see it and talk about it. So we try together that the storytelling is improving, not in Africa, but also here, because when we want to regain the screens from the American majors, we have altogether become better.
Thank you. Can you take us? Oh, you're going to add something, Tsitsi?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, so Gabriele has spoken about the basis, because all good film begins with a good script. So we have to work on the development. And it's also one of the cheapest areas to work in, because convening 16 writers is very different from convening, let's say, 8 directors for a directing workshop. And one of the things that I'm really very, very sure that has to be done, and this is something I learned from the DFFB, is that we need to have training with production. Zimbabwe has a lot of theoretical training, but very few people actually get to be trained in production. And there are many countries on the continent that don't have a proper film school, and Zimbabwe is one. So training with production is important. So in addition to development, I am now putting together a 6-year program called CASSI, C-A-S-S-I, and this stands for Creative Africa Storytelling for the Screen Incubator. It's composed of 2 cycles of 3 years, and each cycle begins with the script writing, but then it goes through all the other major aspects of filmmaking. And there is, on the production modules, there is a production for each of them, so that the participants end the learning situation with a credit to their name.
So what sort of obstacles have you had to navigate getting the training that you provide out to people so far? Do you want to take that, Tsitsi?
Yes. And then I don't know whether Gabriele will speak about other things, but the problem I have encountered, and it's really interesting because being a novelist, I encountered this as a novelist in the 1980s, is that it's very difficult for people to take me seriously as a melanated woman coming from a small, troubled country that has no film industry. On one hand, I can understand that because one needs home investment in order to be taken seriously. But then the question becomes, Africa being the continent that it is and having so many areas that are in crisis at the moment, does that mean that we just discount all the people in these countries? My thinking is that it would be necessary to therefore make sure that we have vehicles for these people. And this is exactly what I'm trying to do. So resourcing, presenting as I do, has been one of my major difficulties. The other difficulty is the level of skill in the actual countries. When I went back to Zimbabwe, that was at the turn of the millennium, and so skills were very low. I'm really happy to say that this has improved. I have done a lot of training in Zimbabwe. We've produced films that have really traveled on the festival circuit, short films. But it has improved, and I'm really happy about that. And that's because of the internet and people being able to see films, and also the technology becoming less expensive. But what has not really changed is the demographic issue in film. So I don't know whether Gabriele, you want to talk about the more
I wanted to point out that I'm very impressed that you are able to finance all these teaching and projects, because this definitely is an obstacle. And the difference to here, where we have funding and state money, Tsitsi is bringing up all the money that costs by herself, and finding sponsors as well. So I really don't know how she manages. So money is a problem, of course, and I can't.
She has bloody mindedness. You know, one's meant to disappear, and one refuses to.
Yeah. And I also have to tell you that she is not only paying the facilitators, but she's also paying for all the flights, all the visa, all the hotels, all the dinners, so and a per diem. And she also wants to have for the creative people a grant in between the sessions. So above all...
Yeah.
You know, Gabriele, thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, what tends to happen is that there are opportunities, but there are opportunities where people have to pay for themselves. So the people who can pay for themselves in societies like mine are generally a very specific kind of people who are related to the power elites in the countries. And this then includes business, because these are the people who have access to resources. And business people have to make sure they keep in the good books of the power elite. So it's a really tight little clique of people. And that means the majority, 95% of the population, are excluded. So now what kind of stories will these enablers of regimes be telling? Really, you need to see some of the Zimbabwean films to understand what I'm talking about.
So, yeah, I want to encourage this, and therefore we support Tsitsi and her work, because we want to have stories from all over the world, from normal people, not from the elite, not only from belly button, arty-farty art house films, but stories that really matter, and also focused on women. And personally, I would like to encourage to find associations and guilds, because I'm also working for the German Writers Guild, and we would like to share all the information we have and all what we are fighting for on the national and also on the European level. And we would like to find partners to work together, sharing information and also sharing the fight against major companies. Streamers are working globally, working for their shareholders, and we would like the creative people in the business getting a fair share and being able to keep some of their rights for themselves, to be able to invest in further projects, so that we have a common interest in exchanging information and also encouraging the fight for a fair share.
Yeah, that's awesome. I want to know, what have been thus far the notable highlights of the work of Icapa's impact thus far? Tsitsi, do you want to take that?
Yes. Thank you, Simone. Yes, we have done several training programs in Zimbabwe where we have actually produced. We started off in 2004 with a call for stories, just stories, because I knew that the women did not have enough experience of script writing. So we just had like 3 pages of a story. And then we had a development program where we developed 4 short films out of these stories. Out of these 4 short films, between 2005 and 2016, we were able to produce 3. So the 4th did not get produced, but I don't think that I'm going to be pursuing that, because I thought to myself, I'm in my 7th decade and here I am producing short films, having spent 6 years to learn how to make long feature films. So I decided I'm going to graduate. So anyway, these short films, the 3 of them, have done very well. They have traveled, as I said, they've won international prizes on the continent and off the continent. So that was really great. The money did dry up when Zimbabwe really nosedived into crisis at the end of the first decade of our current millennium, but things seem to be picking up again now. So we have trained women, and there was a time when, if you like around 2010 or so, if you went onto any set, it was likely that one of the women would have been trained at Icapa. Now there are many more, and that's wonderful. And we do have a basic crew of women that we can call on for some of our projects. We do a series of short video clips about the lives of women called Picture My Life, and different aspects of the life, like trying to vote, etc., etc. And we have a crew that's so well trained that we can rely on them to produce. And we also have a film festival where we screen films with female protagonists. And I realized that this was necessary because in a society like Zimbabwe, one does not have many female role models. One does not see so many women just getting up and doing their own thing and being successful for themselves and also contributing to the society. So I thought it would be great to have a festival where ordinary women could see other women being fabulous, and also where filmmakers could see how to tell the stories about women in an effective way. So those are some of the highlights.
So I know you touched on the program called Cassis earlier, but can you tell us a bit more about the long-term goals that you have for your work?
Yeah, well, the long-term goals are really to just continue with this kind of development of filmmakers, capacitating filmmakers. So I have put together this program called Cassis, and it's got about 5 projects in it. The first one is the introductory course, which covers all the basic areas of filmmaking. And my hope is that I will be able to negotiate with a recognized institution so that we can get that certified. And it is 6 years in all, and that means 2 cycles of 3 years. And by the end of that, my objective is that there will be a core of well-trained filmmakers, whether that's from writers right into production on the continent, who know each other, who can work together to produce better films for the creative economy on the continent. I also have a production summit, which acts as an incubator. And this is because in my career, I have found that it has been literally impossible for me to obtain funding for my feature films. And one of the reasons is that even when people are really interested in what you are doing, when they come back to ask about how far have you developed, if you cannot say, I have also done some work successfully in resourcing my film, people can't be interested, and you can't actually blame people because filmmaking is expensive. One of my projects was selected for the last 10 of the Berlinale talents. And of course, when people came back to ask me what I had done, I had to say, I've done work on the script, but I haven't been able to raise any money. So if you put that with somebody from somewhere who has been able to write an interesting story and raise, let's say, $200,000, who would you select? I would also select the person with $200,000. So it seemed to me that I need to put in a mechanism to make sure that there is money on the continent for people with good stories. And this is what this production summit will do. And I hope that it will turn into a film fund afterwards. I also have a prize for African and African descended women filmmakers called the Distinguished Woman of African Film Prize. And this is important because so many of us are doing such hard work so thanklessly. Nobody even knows that people are doing this kind of work. People like Mahen Bonetti, people like Suad Hussein, people like Zanele Mtembu. And I don't know whether anyone in the audience has actually heard any of those names, but these are people who exist and they have dedicated their lives to African film. And so I think a prize is something that can recognize and can draw attention to the work of African women in film. We also have a mentoring platform, and this is something that we launched at Cannes last year after we had done the pilot, where we pair up talent from the continent that are ready for the breakthrough moment with international talent who can mentor them and maybe point them to platforms that will be helpful to them. It was a very successful program that we did last year, and the premiere, the launch in Cannes, was really wonderful. And then finally, for the teaching that we do, whether it's at the Production Summit Incubator or whether it is for the introductory course, we'll go online so that after the 6 years, this training is still available. And even during the 6 years, this training is available. So these are the long-term goals. And the idea is that by the end of it, there really will be a core that we can utilize amongst ourselves to help us develop our films, people who are trained in critiquing the storytelling and people who are trained to produce well.
So we have to wrap up now, but just really quickly tell us how we can get involved before we say goodbye.
Well, you can go to our website, and there is information there about how to get involved if one wants to help in any way at all. And this can be whether it's donations, whether it's to volunteer to say, Tsitsi, I do this, and, you know, I liked what I heard, and I would be happy to teach on your course when the time comes. If you run an accredited institution and you think this is interesting, that's also something I would like to hear about. You can go to info@icapatrust.org, or you can simply do direct, which is myself, at icapatrust.org. So there are lots of ways that people can get involved. Thank you.
Yeah, and I would like to add that Tsitsi has decided to conquer these film festivals, and from the stories and scripts she is developing as an author and as a producer, she is dedicated to come back in a period of 2 times to Berlin and Cannes.
Wow. Fantastic. So we've really enjoyed listening to you today, but we have to say goodbye. But this has been really good information for us all. So we'll be looking you up. Thank you, Tsitsi.
Lovely. Thank you so much.
Gabrielle.
Thank you so much. Thank you.